Let's bring it in close, Twilighters. Bring in my dear co-host, Mr. KC Fields, my brother, in with me, tight into your personal space where we are most grateful to be. I have been going over some of those materials you flowed my way yesterday, reminding me about Detective Danny Gallindo. For you who are following along at home in your scripture of Helter Skelter, please find yourself with the lead investigators. First responders showed up at the scene. Do you remember exactly when it was? It was when Winfred Chapman called it in. The first responders, and then
approximately right around 9 a.m.
So we fans and friends here at Twilight Garage have the infamous night of the Tex Watson murders at the Tate residence up on Cielo Drive. It already occurred. It's been called in. A few police officers have showed up. One officer, I think his name was dragged through the mud for putting a fingerprint on a button maybe he didn't actually do. So we've got a lot of personalities. Some of these ancillary names will stick, and you just remember them. Danny Gallindo is one of those names. It just comes up and comes up. He had a decent career in the LAPD. He was a veteran officer, been on some pretty major cases previously, and since the Tate LaBianca murders. So he's here at what was just the scene of the murder of Sharon Tate and 4 others on Cielo Drive at 1:30 in the afternoon. So you think about
that's when he showed up. Yeah, around 1:30.
Rolling up on this, viewers. You're in your unit. You get out. It's hotter than blazes. You've got your white shirt on, and there are bodies. And it's not your first homicide investigation, but to see multiple bodies laid out on the lawn, you've heard broken reports, mass carnage. You go into the house, the first thing you notice, of course, one of the victims' blood apparently would be the word pig written on the front door. So definitely going to set a harrowing stage for him to walk in on the main room of the massacre with Sharon, Jay, all the explanation that had happened of Abigail Folger fleeing and Wojtek Frykowski being attacked and fleeing. And these are now under white sheets, but these bodies are examined by Danny Gallindo, are they not?
Yeah, so Danny is a sergeant. He's a homicide detective. At this point, about 23 years of service in the LAPD. So it wasn't his first homicide by any means. I think that he said later on in his 1977 testimony in Leslie Van Houten's trial, I think he said he worked close to 200 homicides over his time period. So he showed up to one of the most horrific murders in LA history, right?
That's what I'm saying. Just the scene of it, walking up, doing your job the way only a seasoned homicide detective such as himself could do. It puts you in a very professional state of mind and body. You're alert, the things you're taking in. You probably observed the cut wires, all the different things being attended to. He's taking all this in, but then to see the bodies is an entirely different thing.
He said one of the first things that stood out to him was seeing that word on the door, pig, in big letters. He said, wow, this is different,
Absolutely.
How many other times had you seen that at that point in your career? He hadn't yet. He had heard of things being written at crime scenes before, but I think that was the first for him.
That was harrowing. It took the whole thought of homicide to a new level. It was just a revelation in horror to walk in on, and then to see it was very jarring to see the American flag. You've got the bloody nylon rope that was very white and very big. Like, that is some useless damn rope to me.
3-strand, slick, not the kind of rope that comes apart pretty easily. You can't really use it to tow anything.
And it's huge.
Yeah.
You can't knot it. You can't do anything with it.
As a dear friend of mine would say, if that rope did exist at Spawn Ranch, which is a huge if, it would have been used as like a show rope, like for pony rides. So it would be connected to the horse's bridle, and somebody would be pulling the pony.
That's why you would want it white and fluffy, 3-strand and pretty.
Exactly.
To make a nice picture.
By no means the type of rope that you use for actual work.
Any kind of utility.
Ranch. Yeah.
And we thank our dear friend Butch for that information. Yep. Woo, Butchie.
That's right. Shout out. So Galindo is kind of, he's at the scene. He's working with these SID, Scientific Investigation Division guys who are taking blood evidence. They're taking fingerprints. And Galindo is just kind of pointing here and then. He's taking pictures, all that. And he goes back to, I believe, Parker Center. But he's back that afternoon, that night, typing up a police report from the CLO crime scene, right? I'm assuming now he goes to bed. The next morning he gets up, shows up. He's still working on this report, right? Just knocking it out. In the by that time, the La Bianca murders had happened. Saturday night, early Sunday morning. So Galindo is back. He's typing up his report on Sunday afternoon, Sunday night, and he gets a call from a member of the media saying there was just another horrific murder, very similar to the Tate murders. You're going to be getting a call on it really soon. He hangs up the phone, and almost immediately he gets a call from his supervisor saying, "We got a murder out in Los Feliz off Waverly Drive. You need to get out there." So by midnight, 11 o'clock, he's basically packing up his gear, his camera, all of his equipment that he needs, and he's going over to Waverly. He gets there, I think, about 1 a.m., which would have been early Monday morning. The guy ends up, he has 2 other officers. He's got one assigned to the back, one assigned to the front, and he's securing the inside of the property. He was at that location for over 24 hours, going through drawers, taking photographs, speaking to neighbors, just doing a thorough investigation.
Wow.
At the La Bianca scene the entire way.
So, my goodness, he was one of the first responders at the La Bianca?
Yeah, he was like the third or fourth responder there. Yep.
Oh, because
the first detective, having just worked the night before on the Tate murders. I thought about, I was like, Danny Galindo should have written a book called The Longest Weekend of My Life.
Weekend with Danny. Good Lord. So he was the one responsible for the murder photographs that we see.
Yeah, he took most of those, yeah.
So the one especially of Sharon Tate.
Mm-hmm. He's looking into vehicles of Rosemary and Leno. He found the coin collections. He's going through drawers. He's finding blasters, ammunition shells, money, all kinds of stuff.
Man. So at what point were the bodies removed? Because he took those photos. So he had a thorough examination minus the pillowcase situation.
He was in there with those bodies for a couple hours. they actually were removing Lino. This was prior to him getting there. Actually, they were about to take Lino out, the ambulance crew. They hadn't yet even discovered Rosemary's. The ambulance was about to drive out of the driveway, and her corpse was still in the house and hadn't been looked at yet. So they pronounced both of them deceased at the scene. And that's when Galindo's work really started. And he interviewed Joe Dorgan, the boyfriend of Susan LaBerge,
Right.
the daughter of Rosemary, also Frank Struthers Jr., the son of Rosemary,
Who was the
LaBianca as well.
first one to
Yeah.
alert the sister, who got
Yeah.
Frank involved, blah, 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 blah.
He went and spoke with
Dorgan
the
involved.
owner of the house next door, which used to be the house that was rented to Harold True the summer prior. The owner of that house was living in the back guest house with a child at the time. He wanted to see if they knew anything. He had officers canvass the neighborhood looking for bloody clothes, potential weapons. He went through the entire scene looking at every single potential weapon, pulling knives out of drawers, comparing knife sizes. All that eventually needed to get some shut eye. So just is looking for a place in the house where he doesn't disrupt the scene. The living room, the kitchen, the bedroom, those are all out of the equation. Those are all active parts of the crime scene. So
And absolutely disgusting. He saw
Mhm.
pig written in the first house, and the extreme exsanguination in the living room area of Cielo Drive,
Yep.
enough to just melt your eyelashes. And then the more I just felt concentrated in extreme violation and mutilation of especially Lino LaBianca was just an incredible thing to see. With the bodies removed, he still has to deal with the contaminated kitchen,
Yep.
with the helter-skelter on the refrigerator. You go in the living room, you've got the exsanguination all over the carpet. You've got death to pigs on the wall. You've got rise. And then the back.
Helter Skelter.
And then you've got Pat was a get down artist, not a spelling bee winner. So then in the back bedroom where Rosemary expired again. So where did he take refuge?
He went to a back part of the house. I think over by Frank's room, possibly, or maybe in the laundry room area. I'm not quite sure. And he just sat against the wall and fell asleep and had the inside secured. Got up in the morning to continue the investigation, went next door to what is now like a convent where a bunch of retired nuns live. At that time, it was totally basically abandoned.
Right.
He went over there, talked to the security guard. There was a couple of kids that had been staying the night inside there, trespassing, but the security guard wasn't on duty or wasn't doing his job. So he had to go to all these neighbors and ask, what suspicious vehicles did you see? What people did you see on the property? They had to talk to the gardener. I mean, a lot of good investigative work.
Gumshoeing, as we call it. But for me, all I could think about, Danny threw a hot one at the LaBianca crime scene.
And this is an era way before we knew what PTSD was, right? Guys were coming home from Vietnam. They called it shell shocked. Well, here's a guy that on Saturday, he's dealing with the Tate murders. And on Sunday, he's dealing with the LaBianca murders.
And he spent the night. And I'm telling you, the kid honked out a dirt snake up in the LaBianca's crib. Can you imagine how crazy that is? Who could say, with the blood on the walls, I took his shit out my drawers? Dude, You're in one of the most infamously repulsive, wild crime scenes of all time. Dude, he was there all night. Somebody brought him some takeout to eat. You know what I mean? You're about to go to sleep. You're like, you're leaning against the wall in the utility room. You go, you know, fellas, you go, you start feeling your ass cheeks get a little sweaty.
Yeah.
You know what's happening?
Yep.
You know what's going down. So then he's like, the bathroom wasn't an active crime scene.
And then you got to, after 24 hours there at the location, maybe he got a little bit of shut eye, but then
He honked
right
one out.
after that, he has to go down to the Los Angeles City morgue
Oh,
at the bottom of the Hall of Justice, the basement, see my man Katsunyama and actually look at these bodies and also compare knife wounds to potential weapons that were found at the crime scene.
correct.
Yeah.
Because initially that was the assumption, was that it was carried out with their own kitchen.
And there's a
knives.
story, he talks about it.
Ooh, the guy.
Imagine this being the fork
Yes.
that was stuck into poor Lino. Okay. Now, in order to get this out,
Bro.
you can't just grab this and leave your fingerprints on it, right?
No.
So what they did was him and a SID investigator through the hole in the pearl handle, two-pronged carving fork.
Meat fork.
Yeah, they stuck a little string. So here's the plan. As he pulls out some toenail clippers out of his pocket.
Just, you know, you just roll with those.
He takes the little end that you fold out that has the little hook on the end, right?
Sure.
He's using that to open the wound more. So this
Less resistance.
less resistance. So homeboy can pull it out with the string.
Oh.
That way they could preserve.
This is Gaindo
this-
helping out?
Yeah, with I can't remember the
He's all-
detective at the time.
Oh.
Yeah, it's heavy stuff, man.
Oh.
Heavy
Whoa.
stuff.
Man, that is a weekend. Oh my goodness. Those kids, I thought the weekend at Bernie's was rough, but man, this thing ain't got shit on my man.
Even
Danny.
23 plus years doesn't
Whoa.
prepare you for a weekend like that on the job.
Woof.
Yeah.
Whoa. And then guess what? Honey, you know we've got the barbecue on Saturday with the kids. Yeah. Yeah, you know, I hope you can be sober by then.
Yeah.
You know, it's the whole thing is like life goes on. You're still dad. You still got your life.
That era, man, they just manned up. They just put their feelings aside, right?
It was a
This is
job.
silent generation.
It was a
He's
job.
probably in his 40s or so. No, he's probably in his 50s at this
Yeah,
point.
probably Korean
Yeah.
War vet.
Yeah.
Had seen some shit,
Yeah.
offed some Chinese, had a rough day of it. You know what I'm saying?
YouTube's gonna help us out with that one.
Could we go back?
No,
Let's go
we're
back.
good. We're good. Keep it
Well, I was
rolling.
gonna say, I was gonna finish the phrase in
Yeah.
full flower there, but I dialed it back, people. Sorry.
Yeah. So I guess what I'm starting to do is actually understand a little bit more about these individuals. For years, they've just been names to me.
Right.
And now I'm starting to look really deep into their
Because that's why the
testimonies.
name sticks
Yeah.
so hard, is he was
Yeah.
the photographer. So when we see those just absolutely horrific pictures of Sharon Tate, he had to show up. You know, there's no warm up.
He was one of the most veteran Hollywood Division homicide detectives, sergeant.
But that Lino situation just must have just
Yeah.
really been rough. And then you got to wonder, he'd run this investigation, been completely thorough, and done so many correct things procedurally, but also instinctively as a veteran investigator, as he was a sergeant in the detectives division. I think the whole ability of him, like you say, to be a cool enough customer to not look for a way out, not try to do anything, but be a solid cop and secure the crime scene. So the next shift of guys
Yeah.
who are going to have to be grinding it out didn't have extra work to do. Like, that's what kind of a friend and police officer you
And
are.
that's what's amazing is he put in his 24 hours plus on that investigation. Eventually the guy has to get some food and some sleep. So another investigation unit comes in and picks up where he left off, right? And that's it for him.
Yep.
He never went back there I know he actually did go back, but later, a couple days later, but his basically
but his
majority of
function
his function was done at that point.
ceased. Yeah.
Write up the report, write up everything you found, who you talked to,
So that it can
yeah.
be picked up by the next person. And it's an incredible thing, these investigations. People don't understand how police work actually occurs. And this is a prime example. I appreciate you pointing out. He created a dossier. He went more than the extra mile, created a very detailed document for the next wave of detectives, because there are very differentiated parts of an investigation and people are specialized in these different elements.
That's a great point, because actually he was the guy that made the connection between these two murders, right? Because he was at both scenes.
Immediately.
A lot of the guys that were investigating the Tate murders, they never even worked on the La Bianca murders, right? Some of the SID unit guys did, because there was fewer of those guys that had the specialty of being able to collect blood and fingerprint evidence, you know. But he saw it right off the bat: words written in both locations, manner of the victims being tied up, very similar. He gave his opinion later on in Leslie's trial. He said that he didn't believe that Lino put up a big fight. There wasn't enough evidence in the living room to show that there was like a grand fight. But he said that, man, Rosemary, really, that was a battle in there between her and Pat and Leslie. That room was tore up. She was on the ground. Two lamps were tipped over. One of the lamps was connected around her neck, right? Galindo goes in there. He needs to, it's a giant lamp. It's heavy. He needs to detach the lamp from the victim. So he uses the same nail clippers to cut the lamp wire to free. I mean, it's pretty graphic, but he did a detailed job in his reporting.
It is an incredible thing to take in, to give you the gravity of these crimes, because if it's to be believed that these were done out of some devotion or loving act, it shows you the price that was paid in human flesh and human life.
Yeah.
It's horrifying. It is absolutely blood curdling. And if this was actually done to free Bobby Beausoleil, this is an incredible act.
And I want to highlight guys like that, the people that were just doing their job a little bit more. A lot of times we skip right over their names. They're just a position, right?
Right. Or like I say, it was a photo credit because his name kept coming up. And even then I kept thinking he was partners with the cat who got dirted for the fingerprint on the exit of Cielo with the gate button. And I didn't realize that initially that he was the photographer, and that's why his name was so prominent in my mind. To have taken all that in, I had no idea, because honestly, Twilighters, thanks Kim for joining. When I saw that he was the photographer, I assumed came in, pop, 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 pop. You do the shots of each of these poor victims, and then you're on to the next thing. I figured you're in, you're out. I didn't realize that he was also a more active investigator who just happened to also be a forensic photographer. Okay. Okay, Danny. Anything else you can share as a policeman
One of the
with your skills, your broad skills?
I
Like,
mean, I want
holy
you guys to
cow.
look it up. I need to be real careful on how I say this for YouTube.
Yes,
But
please.
there's a picture from that investigation that is actually Lino's collection of pew-pews. And I couldn't believe how many of these that Lino actually had. There's a whole slew of different revolvers
Yeah,
and shotguns.
He
and
sure enjoyed them.
Yeah, he had to. Galindo had to go through all of that stuff to make sure that some of these weapons weren't taken from the scene, right? And used in other potential
Sure.
murders.
Sure, we had blunderbusses and all kinds of like antique pieces. And,
Yeah.
you know, it seemed like he was more of a passionate collector of historical firearms and coins than any type of
It's surprising that
gun
there wasn't a whole
enthusiast.
lot of stuff taken from that scene. There was jewelry that was left behind. There was money that was left behind. Yeah, I do believe that, in my opinion, the La Bianca murders, the purpose was to not only the copycat, but also to get money to pay back the straight Satans. But do what you will with it. Believe, whatever you want on that. But I do think that if burglary was really the mission, then they took very little of what they potentially could have.
Absolutely. They had those coin collections, they had the firearms, a lot of that stuff's untraceable. If you get all you have to do is drive out of the LA area and sell those coins. You could do it in
the
one.
Backyard was a garage. On top of the garage and on bottom underneath the garage were apartments. Frank Jr. used to stay there off and on. At one point, when Lino's mom owned that property, Lino and his first wife, Alice, lived in that back apartment where the garage was. Inside of that apartment, it was full of musical equipment. So I'm thinking if Charlie and Tex would have gone back into that, potentially a lot more could have been taken.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's just such a point of interest over the years that while there was no direct proof of contact between the victims and the family members, the proximity of Harold True, just in the familiarity. Now, do you feel that because the house had been previously vacant, that they had potentially stayed there themselves, that maybe they squatted there, though the La Biancas owned it?
I'm really glad you brought that up, because that's an area of the case, a rumor that's persisted for a long time, that back in the summer of '68, when Harold True lived there with his friends in the house next door to the La Bianca, Corinne La Bianca, Lino's mother, that house was vacant the whole entire time that True and his friends were there. So there was no Lino calling the cops to bust their parties and Charles Manson upset, that the cops were getting called on them. There was nothing like that. But allegedly, during some of these parties at True's house, some of them did wander over to the vacant
it would make sense
home,
based on their previous behavior and just their kind of
allegedly they did, some acid over there. There might have been some sexcapades going on in the La Bianca house. It was just a little auxiliary crash pad to the main party house.
Well, absolutely. And then you hear Harold True's testimony and how cantankerous and shitty he was on the phone and just what a self-centered prick he came off as. And you can see he's the kind of guy where when things weren't going his way, you want to give him a little bit of space. Mm-hmm. And that's the whole thing. They kind of had a toehold in that house for whatever reason.
Now they moved, True and his friends moved out in September of 1968. And in, I believe it was November or maybe September, I don't know, somewhere around that time period.
In the fall of 68.
Yeah. Rosemary and Lino moved into the house. They purchased the house from Lino's mother, and they moved in from what used to be Walt Disney's house on Walking Way, where they lived prior. So they moved in, and then between the spring and summer of '69, they were experiencing all kinds of break-ins. They'd go out of town for the weekend. They'd come back. Doors were open. Windows were open. The dogs were out where the dogs were in prior. So they were actually telling family members, like Lino told his daughter, don't leave me a birthday gift at the house because we're having people come in and out, and there's likely someone will steal it. There's actually a rumor that a week prior to the LaBianca murders, that Steve Grogan, and Catherine Scher, Gypsy, might have creepy crawled the LaBianca's house. I don't know.
You heard it here on Twilight Garage. See, that's why you come here. Just hit the subscribe thing. We're going to one day break the 300 barrier. I hope we're looking back and laughing many years from now together, Twilighters, because we're sharing our lives with one another as we do every week. But that whole thing drives me crazy because that makes way more sense to me as a young person who bounced around a lot and didn't always have good money, but I would always have good friends. We're out skateboarding, messing around, doing drugs. We're not feeling bad. It didn't look good. Maybe you came to your house, your former dream home, and your pool is drained and there's these rats rolling around on their skateboards in the thing. I mean, that's a shocking thing. But for us, it seemed quite natural. Why would anyone begrudge us staying in a vacant house?
And that's an important point.
Why?
Both the Cielo home and that Waverly home were houses that they were familiar with.
Correct.
That they had been inside before.
And that's,
Charlie admits to being inside that house.
And that's the only reason criminals do crime in places they're familiar with. It's like most essay cases and these different things. It's very rarely a stranger. That's a rare exception. Violence is another rare exception. So to have these combinations of rare things like a directed, almost military assault on a family dwelling 2 nights in a row, leaving a trail of victims from very disparate backgrounds, that is a shocking revelation to have the similarity.
And multiple things can be true. This could also have been Linda Kasabian's doing. That Linda Kasabian used to buy drugs from Harold True. She had been at parties over at True's house. So on this night where they're driving around trying to figure out what house to rip off, she's saying, why don't we go to Harold True's house? Charlie's like, no. True's out of there.
Yeah.
All those guys are gone. That house is empty. They show up. They go and look in the windows of that house. It's empty. True's house is empty.
But
now the lights are on across right next door.
Next door, not in the city.
We know that house. We look inside the window.
Yep.
It's an older couple. They got some money.
We'll be back.
Yeah.
More news at 11. Yeah, it's crazy, man, to think that there are so many questions due to people's inability to occupy the Slayer's sandals, if you will. And that's really what you did nicely on the other side of the fence with this Danny Gaindo portrait, because I feel getting to know all these players in this incredible story is the most important part of this. I think getting away from the more personal aspects of this is a big mistake, because it is a game of cat and mouse. You have very strong-willed young people. You have very driven professionals who are excellent at their jobs, which is law enforcement. And this is an incredibly riveting story on so many levels.
So I want to encourage you guys to step beyond Helter Skelter, the book, right? And actually look at the transcripts, because that's when you see these details in there, right?
Juicy, as you're about to say.
Well,
it doesn't want, we don't want to, this is the whole thing. We don't want to reduce the impact of the victim's suffering. There's in no way are we trying to do that.
Yeah.
But these details have been sitting just like rubies in the dirt right there. So it's really hard not to say they're juicy morsels, because we've been researching, and due to language issues or records issues, or the way the manuscripts have been transcribed, you get different things from different people. It has this biblical element again. And there you go.
I've been trying to go through one transcript per day, which is like 500 pages per day, right? And what I'm trying to do is take little parts from those transcripts, add them in my book to different events that happened prior, right? Even if I might read 500 pages and only get 1 page worth of notes from there, but that page and those little nuggets really help tell the story for each one of these events.
And that is why, Twilighters, it is always about finding the correct information. We are not the end all. We are not the be all of this. That would be Deb Silva. But what we do is try to toe the line, listen to all sides, put these things out here for your dissemination, because there are a whole lot of great minds in our comment section, in our viewership, and even in the fiefdom known as our haterdom or haterdome. So we want to thank you all for tuning in as well. And even the sweet haters beyond our appearance, if you could criticize some of the information and add something good, we'd really appreciate it, because we do love being righteously corrected. Because again, it's not about us. It's not about the ego. It's about disseminating this information that was well delivered to you so that you can make what you wanted of it. And if it had been given to us with a taint or something strange to it, we wouldn't have been able to make our own opinion of it. It would be sullied. And again, that is out of gratitude to people like Deb Silva, Colonel Todd, all the great researchers, the George Stimsons, who really are in our hearts. We are grateful for you. You gave a lot of your life to make this research good, and we're glad to have you back. We'd love to have you on our shows at any time. Anything we can do for y'all, please find us. No Sense Makes Sense
on Facebook.
We really enjoy that format. We have a lot of fun. We've had some wonderful new joiners. I don't know if we can get any names off the top of our heads, but we've been saying hi to them, and it's been a lot of fun. We need this fresh blood. Let's treat each other nicely, because we were all newbies in this thing, A, at one point, but B, if we don't have this fresh blood, if we don't have excitement behind this case, it's going to die with us. And it'd be a damn shame, because there's so much to learn from it, philosophically, socially, and also just as a damn fun pastime, Twilighters. Thanks for joining us. As always, Casey, any burning desire outro? You got anything you want to talk about?
No, please like and subscribe. Tell your friends.
Ooh, thank you all.